dive into this fascinating collection of material. It's called The Truth About Life and Happiness Most People Never Discover.
It's a bold title.
It is a very bold title. And the content, well, it lives up to it. We're talking about this deep philosophical disconnect so many of us feel.
That treadmill feeling.
Exactly. This treadmill where you spend, decades chasing fulfillment, status, whatever. And you finally hit a goal, and for a second it's great, but then, poof, the feeling's gone.
Right, and you're just on to the next thing. That phenomenon, the moving goalpost, that's really the central idea in these writings.
Yeah.
We're all sort of socialized into this one specific story, right? This one success narrative, and it's basically achieve the external thing, then you'll be happy.
The classic false promise. If I just get the money or find the perfect person or get the promotion, then life will finally feel complete.
We treat it like a reward.
Yeah, a reward for all the effort. But these sources, they're so clear on this point. If you build your happiness on what happens outside of you, you are building on quicksand.
Which brings us to, I think, the mission for our deep dive today.
Okay.
We're here to unpack a an inverted perspective. The truth of it, according to these sources, is that happiness isn't something you find. It's something you have to actively build inside.
Internal architecture.
Exactly, an internal architecture of fulfillment. And we're going to map out the 7 core principles that sort of hold that structure up.
Okay, I like that. Internal architecture. Let's start with the foundation then. Principle number 1. Happiness is a daily practice, not a destination. And it flies right in the face of the idea that happiness shows up when your life is finally perfect.
It's less about luck and more about, say, training. What was so fascinating in the material was this emphasis on your response. Happiness isn't about your life finally going according to plan. It's about your capacity to choose an empowering response to life.
Oh.
Well, as it is. Right now.
I'm glad you clarified that it's about response. You often hear things like, just have a good attitude, and it can feel a little dismissive.
Right.
But framing it as a daily practice, that implies there's intentional work to be done.
Yeah.
So where do the sources say we should, focus that work?
The work is all focused on that tiny little space, the gap between stimulus and reaction.
Okay.
The sources use this great example. You have 2 people, they face the exact same setback, maybe a layoff, right?
A really common one.
One person just immediately falls into this bitter victim story. The event just consumes them. The other person, though, they take a pause. It's a deliberate pause. They integrate the loss and they pull a lesson out of it for the future.
And the difference isn't luck.
The difference isn't luck or circumstance. It's the trained capacity for that internal pause. It's a skill.
That makes so much more sense. It's not about changing the world. It's about changing the lens. Which, I guess, leads us right into the second principle.
It does.
Your mind shapes your reality more than your circumstances do.
This is so critical to the whole architecture. If practice is the foundation, then interpretation is like the building material. Most of our struggle, our day-to-day suffering, it doesn't come from the external event itself. It comes from our thoughts about the event.
The story we tell ourselves.
Precisely. The sources say you don't actually experience life, you experience your thoughts about life.
Okay, let's use an analogy. Say your car breaks down.
Okay.
The broken car, that's just the event. It's a mechanical failure, simple, but the suffering, it comes from the internal story, right? I'm so irresponsible, or this stuff always happens to me, or I'll never get ahead.
Exactly. That internal story, that interpretation, that's what creates the emotional weight that lasts way, way longer than it takes for the tow truck to show up.
Yeah.
And if your mind can take one temporary problem and build a whole narrative of permanent personal failure around it, well, that shows you the immense power your mind has.
And it's often a destructive power.
Often. But the moment you get that, the moment you realize the interpretation is the real source of the suffering, you can stop blaming everything outside of you. The car, the job, the weather, and you start to reclaim control inside.
That shifting control is huge. And it's a perfect transition, actually, to our third principle, which is all about those inevitable difficulties.
Right.
Pain is unavoidable.
But suffering is optional.
Exactly. I've heard that before. But I'm curious how these sources really define that line. Where does the pain stop and the suffering begin?
Well, pain is just the raw data. It's the physiological or the emotional discomfort that's just a natural part of being alive. Grief, loss, disappointment, failure.
It's just an input.
It's a necessary input, yeah. Suffering, that begins with the resistance to the pain.
So suffering is the extra layer we add on top.
It's the extra layer. It's the mental time travel. Replaying the past over and over, wishing it was different, or projecting all this fear into a future that isn't even here yet.
The fight against what is.
That's it. You're fighting reality. The reality of a loss or a tough market or your own imperfections. And you can't move forward if you're constantly in that fight. It just traps the pain inside you.
So the antidote to that resistance to suffering has to be acceptance.
It is. But we have to be really clear about what the sources mean by acceptance. It's not weakness. It's not giving up.
It's not resignation.
No, it's functional clarity. It's just seeing the reality of the situation for what it is without all the filters of denial or wishful thinking. You literally cannot heal what you refuse to first accept.
It almost sounds like a data point. Like acceptance is the moment you stop asking, why me? And you start asking, okay, this is where I am. What's next?
That's the turning point. For you, the listener, getting this distinction is the key. Pain hurts, but it's finite. Suffering, the resistance, that's what turns a finite event into a lifelong burden.
Okay, so let's shift to some of the external forces that, they actively work against this inner peace. Our fourth principle, comparison quietly destroys inner peace.
It is an epidemic. It's the great joy thief.
It really is.
And what's striking in the sources is how it's more than just envy. It's a form of self-sabotage. You are constantly measuring your own messy, behind-the-scenes reality against someone else's highlight reel.
They're curated, polished, external performance.
Yeah. It's a game you can't win because you're literally fighting an illusion.
So what's the mental antidote? What do the sources say?
It's a really powerful reframe. It's this simple truth that, life has no universal timeline. There's no cosmic schedule that you are late for.
That's a big one.
Your journey is yours alone. Some people bloom early, some find their purpose late in life, some only transform after a massive setback.
We've all absorbed this, like industrial age timetable, haven't we? Graduate by this age, marry by this age, retire by that one. But life isn't a factory line.
Exactly. And comparison steals your joy because it ignores all the context. You see their success, but you don't see the 15 years of struggle or the sacrifices or the quiet anxiety they live with.
You just see the end point.
You just see the end point. And the sources offer this huge reassurance. You are not late. You are becoming.
I like that. You are becoming. Now, speaking of things we chase, let's pivot from comparison to our fifth principle. This one contrasts two very different kinds of satisfaction. Meaning versus pleasure.
Right. Meaning creates deeper happiness than pleasure does.
Pleasure is the easy one to get, right? It feels good in the moment.
It's the sugar rush, the quick purchase, the easy distraction. It's a temporary fix, but it's ephemeral by its nature. It creates what they call a hedonic treadmill.
Where you need more and more just to get the same feeling.
Exactly.
So if pleasure is fleeting, how do the sources define meaning? What's it made of?
Meaning taps into something much deeper. Our need for purpose, for contribution. Fulfillment, as they define it, is this combination of a few high-value actions, growing as a person, helping others,
Contribution.
and living in a way that's aligned with your core values. Integrity. It's not a quick spark. It's the slow burn. It's durable.
The difference is so stark. A life built around pleasure, it just collapses when hardship hits, because the pleasure is gone.
Of course.
But a life built around meaning, it can actually transform hardship.
It does. When your life is aligned with growth and contribution, a setback isn't just a miserable event. It becomes a challenge you have to overcome to serve that bigger purpose. The hardship gets context.
So that's what really builds the internal architecture. It's not what you get, it's how you use your energy.
That's it.
And that brings us right back inside to our sixth principle. And this one, I think, is a huge breakthrough moment for so many people. The idea that you're not your thoughts.
This is one of the most fundamental questions, isn't it? Who is the thinker? Who is the one listening to the thoughts?
Right.
Our sources define thoughts as just mental events. They're like noise. Random electrical impulses, echoes of the past, fears about the future. They just come and go.
But we identify with them so strongly. We hear that voice in our head, and we just automatically assume, that's me. I am that voice.
And we believe every criticism, every fear, every insecurity it throws at us as if it's a fact.
Yes.
The breakthrough is when you learn to just observe them. Some frameworks call it diffusion. Instead of being swept away by a thought, you label it. There's that thought again, the I'm gonna fail thought.
You just acknowledge it.
You acknowledge the signal, but you don't have to believe it's the truth about reality. And that single act creates this tiny, crucial bit of distance.
And in that distance is the freedom.
That's where it is.
You stop being the voice and you become the observer of the voice, which means even if a really negative thought shows up, you don't have to own it. You don't have to act on it.
It completely changes your relationship with anxiety. Fear just becomes a thought about the future. It's not an immediate threat that you have to panic about.
Okay, finally, let's talk about that constant hum of discomfort that comes with actually trying to get better at anything. Our seventh principle: growth often feels uncomfortable.
And we have this huge cultural myth that growth should feel good. It should be inspirational and smooth and always rewarding.
Right, like a movie montage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we need a major reframe on that. Comfort keeps you familiar. It keeps you static. We think comfort equals safety, but really, a lot of the time, comfort is just stagnation.
So the counter perspective from the sources is, if life feels uncomfortable, it often means you're growing, not failing.
Absolutely. Think about learning any new skill, a new language, an instrument. There's friction there. There's strain. You fail a lot. That discomfort, that's the feedback. It's telling you that your current abilities are being stretched. That's the feeling of your comfort zone physically expanding.
So when we put all 7 of these principles together, we really do see a complete paradigm shift. We started out talking about chasing external things: money, status, pleasure. And we've ended up with this internal architecture. It's built on practice, observation, meaning, and accepting necessary discomfort.
And the summation from the sources is so powerful. Life doesn't get easier. That's the false hope we're sold. Instead, you get stronger, you get wiser, you become more aware.
The goal isn't to get rid of the struggle.
The goal is to build the internal tools to navigate that struggle with purpose.
Which brings us to, I think, the ultimate conclusion from this deep dive. Happiness is not the absence of problems.
No.
It is the presence of understanding.
That understanding of your own mind, your interpretations, your values, that's the real mechanism of freedom. Once you stop defining yourself by what's outside and you really get how you work on the inside, life stops controlling you.
And you begin to live it.
Deliberately.
So we'll leave you with this question for this week. If you were to commit to practicing just one of these 7 principles every single day, whether it's mind shapes reality, or acceptance is clarity, or you're not your thoughts, which one do you think would have the most immediate transformative impact on your daily choices?
Start there. Focus your efforts on that one piece of your internal architecture starting today.